Hello, good morning. Welcome to Unfudge Your Marketing. I am your host, Christy Mitchell. I'm a marketing consultant. I specialize in working with service-based business owners who have relied on referrals and word of mouth to build their business, and they're finally ready to take it to that next level. And in order to do that, they know they need a strategic marketing plan. So this is Unfudge Your Marketing. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're joining us live or on the replay. This is a show where I chat with business owners about their marketing missteps and, most importantly, giving you those helpful lessons learned and takeaways that you can apply to your own business. So I'm very excited today to be joined by Maria Cast. Maria is a 3-time business owner and executive coach who has been helping executives and teams to eliminate the downhill thoughts and behaviors that keep them from achieving their vision. In 2019, she developed her core proprietary process that teaches an intuitive yet structured approach for growing yourself, your team, and therefore your business. This process supports her mission of creating leaders who embrace personal evolution to build a more positive influence on their people in the communities in which they live. Her work has provided multiple 6-figure results for both her and her clients. So with that, I would love to welcome Maria. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Just as you were ending, the sun started streaming in. I was like, oh, great. Yes.
I was like, you're having an unexpected challenge here in Rochester, right? Having sun shining in your face. Are you local today? Are you in Rochester?
Yeah, I'm local. You know what? I'm going to let me shift my camera over, okay? Because I don't want to be, I think this might be better for everybody involved. Well, here it is. This will work. At least it's not like, the stripes in my face. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited. And I love the idea of Unfudge Your Marketing. It's hilarious.
Thank you. I've been getting so much great feedback on the name. I was like, it was definitely a process to arrive at the name that I felt was right. So yeah, I'm very excited. This is episode 2. I am really excited for this conversation. I do want to welcome everyone who is joining us live on LinkedIn to make sure you let us know you're here in the comments. I know Stacy Merva is here, so she is live. Anyone else, please feel free to drop it in the comments. Let us know you're here. Otherwise, we don't know if you're listening. Feel free to also weigh in with any thoughts or questions as Maria and I have this conversation this morning. And we're just really excited to kick things off. So I want to just start by saying, well, first of all, Maria and I have known each other, I think, for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I'd say about 2. Yep.
Yeah, we met through sort of a mutual connection at local networking event, and we kind of just hit it off and kept talking and having conversations. And I've had the opportunity to help Maria with some of her strategic marketing planning in her business. Mm-hmm. And one thing that we have talked about is Facebook ads. And I was so excited that Maria was willing to come on and have this conversation today, because I think Facebook ads are a common thing that business owners either dive into head first, ready to go, ready to use them to gain more awareness and get their message in front of more people. Or maybe some business owners too are still debating on whether or not that should be part of their marketing plan. So I'm really excited to talk with Maria today about her experience using Facebook ads for her business and kind of some lessons learned along the way. Mm-hmm. So Maria, why don't you start by just telling us kind of what led you down the path to doing Facebook ads for your business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My original reason for getting into Facebook ads is, I want to say right around 2018, 2019, in there, I created a group coaching program that was for business owners. And it was more solopreneurs, other coaches, consultants. So I created this program, and I knew that in order for me to reach a larger audience, I needed to put some money towards investment towards advertising. I couldn't just stay in my local market. I couldn't just work with, network and find people online organically. I wanted to supplement that by investing in Facebook ads. And I had been working with a coach who was helping me to build and market the program. And she was an advocate of Facebook ads. And so that is when I started. And that was the reason that I originally started working with or, investing in Facebook ads.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that right, like I kind of kicked off, that's a common a
Yeah.
common thing for business owners, right? I'm doing this offering. I want to get more eyeballs on it. I want to be able to reach more people. And so we go to ads to do that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes. So where do you want to go with this conversation? Because I know you've been like in and out of Facebook
I
ads
have
and maybe working with some different providers, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny because when we were first talking, when you asked me to share, I did have some negative experiences with Facebook ads, which obviously we'll talk about. But I also wanted to make sure that everyone knew that I'm not against putting money into advertising, whether it's Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or any advertising expense. I really feel that's important as a business owner, that you think in that way, that it's not just about your normal ways of marketing yourself with networking events or meeting people, even online, that you really supplementing and getting more eyeballs on you. I think it's really important to invest in advertising, the right way.
Yes.
Which is what I've been learning. So I think that where I'd like to go with it is talk about what did I experience, and then also why do I still think it's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's definitely dive into that. And one thing, I'm so glad you brought up that point too, because anyone who knows me and attends like my masterclass or the workshops that I give knows that I always say like advertising is not my first go-to when I'm working with a client on their strategic marketing plan. And the reason I always say that is that I believe very strongly that you need a solid organic foundation first before you go and amplify that message with something like paid advertising, whether it's Facebook or a different platform, because there's been so many times where I've had discovery calls with potential clients and they come to me and they're like, okay, well, I want to do some advertising. And I'm like, okay, but like, let's look at your website and let's look at the landing page for the thing you're trying to sell. And let's look at, what are you doing organically already on social media? And what does your email marketing look like, so that if you're getting inbound leads, what is happening on the follow-up process? Like that's where I come from a marketing standpoint, is let's build the solid organic foundation first, so that we know when we do paid advertising, we have that infrastructure in place to really support and amplify those efforts. So I'm so glad you brought that point up, because that wasn't something we talked about, like kind of digging into. And I think that is really important. There's a time and a place for it. And it's important to have that solid foundation in place first.
Yeah. And I think you said something very important, and I agree with wholeheartedly, is having your strategy, your marketing strategy, your messaging, your branding, like all of that now, it's never perfect, and you tweak it as you go along in your business. However, having that solid foundation and that strategy for, okay, what are the emails that they're getting once they come into my ecosystem, and what am I saying when I DM them, when I realize like, oh, somebody, opted in for this a lead magnet, or my freebie, or my opt-in, however you want to talk about it, or they've opted in for the wait list of my class, whatever it is that you're putting your advertising dollars into. What are the next steps? What is your strategy for getting them into your world, right? And if you don't have that, if you're just like, oh, I just want to put some money into ads, and then you don't have that strategy foundation, it's not going to work. You're going to be wasting money.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, awesome. We're on the same page with that. Hopefully our audience is as well. As a reminder, be sure to drop some comments on LinkedIn if that's where you are watching us live. I know we have a few people joining us. So let's dive in, Maria. Then kind of where did your journey go with kind of your trial and error and trying some things out with Facebook ads?
So I invested in Facebook ads, like I said, for that for the group coaching program that I had created, and I had my foundations in place, just like we talked about. The follow-up emails for it were in line, and at the time I was doing it by myself. So I was learning back-end Facebook ads. I was doing all the work. And I'm going to tell you, it was incredibly stressful. However, it's because I was learning something new. I think it's really important for you to not just say, oh, I'm going to go hire a consultant to take care of all my Facebook ads or all my LinkedIn ads. Now, if your business is busy enough that you can do that, great. If you have that kind of revenue and you can afford that kind of expense, absolutely do that. If not, I think it's really important to learn the back end of Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, whatever it is. Just learn it enough to know, like, how do I know when it's doing well? What do I need to tweak? All of that, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I did that. I did it all on my own. It was definitely stressful. I had, nights where I was bawling because I didn't understand it was just hard. It's hard to learn. But over time, I started to understand it. And now I can be a little bit dangerous with Facebook ads. I kind of know enough that, and here we go, where we come in with the next step of my journey, where I did hire someone. I knew enough that, like, when I did hire someone eventually, I wasn't getting what I thought I would out of that consultant, right? They were kind of doing what I was already doing and didn't add any more value to the experience for me, which is where I really feel like, and I think this is where we got into this conversation, is I hired a consultant, a year later after I did Facebook ads. I hired a consultant a year later and expecting that I would get some tweaking in my messaging and some support there, and I did not. It was really just basically what I had already been doing. It wasn't any more strategy or any more messaging tweaking, which is really what I was looking for.
Yeah. I'm so glad you hit on that point of doing it yourself for a little while, because I think, like you said, if you have the budget to go out and hire an agency, great. And maybe that is the best move for you. I think no matter what stage you're at, there's always a benefit to at least knowing enough yourself so that you can ask those informed questions of that provider that you're hiring. Because if you have no background, no experience, no knowledge of that thing that you're hiring someone else for, it can be really challenging to know, is this working? Am I getting what I wanted out of this? What questions should I be asking? How do I know if this is what's supposed to be happening?
Yep. And you're going in with blind trust, right? You're just trusting, and you don't even know, like you just said, you don't know if it's working. You don't even know what you should be asking. And you're just throwing money out there and trusting and hoping, right? So I want to just backtrack a little bit. So that first few months, or that first year in my Facebook advertising journey, I really broke even. I never made money. I think I invested I'm going to say about 18 months. I invested about $20,000 in Facebook ads, and I ended up just about breaking even. Maybe I made a few $1,000s based, on what I brought in, the people that came into my world and who purchased my group coaching program. I really only broke even, maybe made a few thousand, but nothing big, which is when I stopped Facebook ads. I was like, that's it. I'm done. It wasn't the right target market who was coming in. It was people who weren't ready to buy. They were brand new in their business, and they didn't have the revenue in their business to be able to justify, oh, I'm going to, sign up for this group coaching program, which was it was like a $5,000 purchase.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being so open and transparent, because I think it's really helpful for people listening to get a sense of, like, okay, what are we talking? Like, how long did you do this? How much did you invest? What happened to that investment? So I really appreciate your open honesty about all of this, because I think it's really helpful for the listeners. So you invested the money, you gave it 18 months, which I give you so much credit for, because so often with marketing tactics, there's so often this feeling of like, well, I want the results right now, and I'm not getting the results. And so I'm just going to stop doing this thing and start doing something else. And I often get the question, well, how long should I work? How long should I execute this marketing plan before I kind of take a step back and figure out, is this really working? And I always say at least 6 months. I think 6 months is a good kind of litmus test to see, like, okay, what's happening? Because a lot of times, right, and you even got to this in your point, like, maybe you're not meeting people at the right point in their journey, and they're not ready to buy yet.
Well, and there were a lot of factors, because again, that was like 2019. That started in 2019, and you know what happened soon after that, right? And then the market changed. Like, everyone was kind of influxing the market with, this is plan B for you. When something like COVID hits, people had a more expendable income. They were spending money. And so at first it was like looking good, and then it tapered off, and that whole market just kind of went downhill. There was something, oh shoot, I was going to say something that popped into my mind. Oh, the 18 months. What ended up happening after that 18 months is I realized that, and this is kind of the blessing in it, is that I realized that's not my market. I was marketing to solopreneurs, coaches, and consultants who wanted to build a business. And I'm like, you know what? I miss my corporate people. I miss my executives. It helped me to realize, even though it looks like, oh my gosh, that failed and she invested all that money and that didn't work, I had to switch it and be like, you know what? I just realized through that, these aren't the people I want to work with. It's just not my target market. It could be someone else's, right? But I realized, gosh, no, this is not for me. And I completely shifted, which I guess that's kind of the next layer of this conversation is I then started to invest in Facebook ads again. And that's when I hired that consultant, where I said, you know what, this is the market I'm going for. I know enough about Facebook ads to know like what I need to tweak, and I can look at the back end and understand the numbers, and hired a consultant that was $1,500 a month that was running my Facebook ads. So that was their work, right? The $1,500 was their consultant fee. And then on top of that, I invested another $1,000 a month in Facebook ads. And again, I did not get from these consultants, I didn't get what I was looking for. I wasn't looking just for you to like plug my ads in, run them, and then turn them off when they weren't performing, or find the best one that was performing and only run that one. I was looking for more, hey, share with me what's happening. What do I need to tweak in my messaging? What should I do based on what we're seeing in the back end? And I really didn't get any of that. Which is where you and I started to have this conversation. And you were like, I think we need to talk about this.
Yes. Yeah. And so I want to start leaning into some of these lessons learned, because I don't want to gloss over some of the ones that I think we've already covered, which is your point about not reaching the right audience. Like let's talk about the first go around, right? When you were doing the ads yourself and you were targeting those solo business owners, do you think that it was a matter of you not getting in front of the right people, or do you think it was the target audience you were going after wasn't at a point of being able to invest in what you were offering?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. I think firstly, they weren't ready to invest in the program. And number two, I'm going to take some ownership here too. It could have been my messaging. It could have, maybe I wasn't messaging the way I needed to. So I was tweaking along the way, but for whatever reason, it wasn't resonating. And the market was changing. Like I said, people had an influx of cash through the pandemic. And then, 2021, that's where it's like you saw a difference. You saw a change in the market.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think there's a couple lessons learned in there for our listeners, right? Making sure that you're targeting the right audience that makes sense for what you're offering, making sure that you are figuring out how you can tweak and adjust that messaging, right? It sounds like, you really tried to roll up your sleeves and do it yourself. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I need someone else's eyes on this. Like I need someone else to weigh in and tell me, like, does this messaging make sense?
Yep.
So I think those are a couple really key things. And then, like you said, getting to the point of realizing, okay, now I'm more clear on who I want to target. It's not the audience I was targeting before. And I'm at a point of, let me hire someone else and get their help to do this. And unfortunately, it sounds like you didn't get what you were hoping to out of that relationship. But what did you learn through that experience?
Yeah, I learned that my target market's on LinkedIn, which I always knew, but I'm told by so many gurus and people that I've worked with on a mentorship level, like my mentors in the industry, is LinkedIn ads aren't as, they haven't dialed it in the way Facebook has, or they're so much more expensive. Like I was letting other people's words kind of shape my where I was spending my advertising dollars. I kept sticking on Facebook because that's just what I was told. And then all of a sudden I'm like, why? So the last time I invested in Facebook ads, which was just a few months ago, it was this previous target market of mine, because I originally started working with corporate and executives when I first started my business, then made the switch. Now I'm back, right? And so I realized, like, hang on a second. My target market, if they're on Facebook, which most of them are, they're not on Facebook to be investing in executive coaching or in leadership development. They're like buying fun stuff on Facebook. And I heard this also from some of my CEOs, because I did some of my own market research with my clients. And I was like, when you're on Facebook, what are you doing? Are you like, if you see this ad come up, what are you thinking? And they're like, I'm not really there for that. I'm not, everything, if I'm looking at anything as far as business goes, it's on LinkedIn. And so I decided to make the shift into LinkedIn advertising, which I'm starting a campaign at the end of this week, where now, granted, I'm also, it's just to the advertising dollars that I'm putting into LinkedIn is just to expand my reach. I'm not selling anything. It's my posts, it's my thought leadership, and it's out there, and I'm putting some advertising dollars into those just to expand the reach beyond my local market and my connections.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So again, I feel like there's like a few things we can dig into on that. First one being, just to back up and talk about, the different places that we can invest in advertising, right, for our business, and making sure that we're picking the platform where our audience is hanging out. But like you say, that's such an interesting point. And I think it's so awesome that you went out to your people and were like, hey, like, let me get some market research here. Let me just like talk to some people and find out, like, when you're on Facebook, what's your thought when an ad like this pops up? So yes, they may be on the platform, right? Which is the first thing you want to be thinking, where am I advertising? Is my audience even hanging out there? And why is my audience there? And what messaging are they receptive to? To your point, right? People, I think, are more likely to be purchasing fun things or watching things that make them laugh, or right. There's like an entertainment value and that sort of thing with the way that probably a good chunk of the Facebook audience engages with content that's on that platform versus a platform like LinkedIn, right? It's more professional. It's more like people looking for that professional development or career changes or, things related to work and business. So I think that those are really good points to just kind of hammer home again for our listeners, that it's not only important that your audience is hanging out there, but it's also important, what are they doing there? The other thing that I'm so glad you brought up is that listening to the noise, right? That other people, oh, well, LinkedIn's too expensive and it's, they're still new to the ad space, whereas Facebook's been doing them forever. And so you just can't get as that, right? And I think that this is so true, not just with advertising, like as the conversation we're having right now, but much more broadly about marketing, right? I think it's so common for business owners to hear these things through their network, through maybe some advisory boards they're on, through, their connections, like, well, you don't want to do this, you want to do that. And then it's like, it just becomes so ingrained that you're like, it takes a lot to kind of step away from that and be like, wait a minute, is this actually true? Like, are these things true that I have in my head?
Yeah. And I want to anchor that point too, that my work, as you know, and you've shared before on your own page, is the inner coach. Like, check in with yourself, right? Like, I kept telling myself, no joke, over the past, for years, because LinkedIn is my I love LinkedIn. I love putting my content on LinkedIn. I love the people on LinkedIn. It's like my place, my happy place. And I was telling myself, like, you need to be on LinkedIn. This is where you should be investing your time and your advertising. I kept telling myself that, and the inner coach was guiding me in that way. But yet I just kept listening to, I kept listening to other people, right? And now I'm giving it, I'm putting my heart into where the inner coach has been guiding me. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see where it goes. And I'm excited to see who I meet, and also the new strategy that I've created around it. Like, it's going to be a different strategy. It's not the put your freebie out, put some advertising dollars around your freebie on Facebook, get them into your network, nurture them with your emails, and then bring them into your masterclass. It's not that. It's totally different. It's more authentic to me. It's getting more eyeballs on my work, and building connections, and going into DMs and saying thank you for like joining me. I would love to meet you and share or hear about your business, and like share about mine, and see how we can help each other. It's more authentic. It's like who I am.
Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh. I'm like so bummed that we're already coming up on time, and I'm thinking we might need to have a part 2 to this conversation, because I feel like there's so much more we could talk about as far as ad strategy. And I think, so being mindful of the time, knowing that we're coming up on it, I want to hit on one point and then pose a question to you, Maria, to kind of help us wrap things up. But one of the things that you had said was about changing the strategy of how you're approaching ads. First of all, the authenticity, that speaks deeply to me, and everything that I'm like, authenticity. Yes. It needs to feel right, and trusting, your inner coach, your gut, your instinct, whatever you want to call it, listening to yourself, I think is very important. And it can be challenging when there's all this noise, especially in the marketing space, about do this, don't do that. I'm doing this, you should do that. All of those things. So I think authenticity is big. Listening to yourself is big. And we don't have time to dive into this, but the notion of like, what are your ads geared towards, I think is important, because you can run ads for lead generation, right? That's the type of advertising that you did before, and it didn't really pan out the way that you had hoped. And I know a lot of times I've heard that business owners do that type of ad strategy, and they get a whole bunch of people on their email list, but they're not good people to have on your email list. They're not opening. Yeah. Sometimes they're not real people. They're spam. Sometimes they're using email addresses that they don't check because they don't actually want to hear from you. And so I'm so curious to see how this goes for you, this new strategy of like, I'm not looking for leads. I'm looking for more people to know about me. And then we'll see where that goes. And integrating those other things like DMs and extending, your outreach to really get to know people personally. I'm really so excited to see where this goes for you.
Yeah. And so a couple things that may be of interest to people is I actually did hire a LinkedIn consultant because now I don't have the time. Like, now I'm at the point where I shouldn't say I'm at capacity with my work, because I am bringing people in as team members to help me to be able to deliver the work that we deliver. However, I know where I want to be focusing my time on business development and creating content and tweaking my courses and working with my clients, right? So I did hire a LinkedIn consultant who is going to be helping me with this, but we're building it together, right? It's not just me giving it all up to her like I did with the last Facebook consultant. We are building this together, the LinkedIn ads. So what I'd love to do is our next time that we meet, if we do this again, let's give it a few months. Let's give it 3 months and see where I'm at with this process of LinkedIn advertising, and see how I could add some value to your audience in that way.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm already excited for that conversation, because I know just the way you are and how introspective, and you listen to yourself, and you're willing to share and help others. And so I'm really, really excited to do a follow-up conversation on this and see how it goes. So to wrap things up, I feel like we've given a lot of nice little tidbits for our audience as far as lessons learned from your experience with advertising in your business. Is there anything we didn't touch on, or something like just some sort of last like lesson that you really want to hammer home to those people listening to us today or catching the replay?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to not be afraid of investing strategically in advertising. I don't want anyone to leave here and think, oh my gosh, this is how much she threw out there in Facebook ads and it failed her. There are people, some of you out there, Facebook ads might be the thing for you. Don't be afraid, or LinkedIn, whatever it is, you decide where your target market is and what you're willing to invest in. But don't be afraid of it, because I think it's really important to expand your reach in that way and put some dollars behind advertising, because it's a business. Businesses have been advertising and having advertising spend since the beginning of time. And there's no reason we don't need to do that anymore.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great message. Don't be afraid to invest. Maybe some, expect that there's going to be a little trial and error and iterating, right? It's business. I mean, I feel like everything in business is trial and error. We got to try some things out, see what works, see what niche we're called to serve and which direction we want to take our business. And the same holds true for your marketing. Trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't, and just keep an eye on those numbers and how things feel. Does it feel authentic? And just keep evolving from there. Thank you so much, Maria. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. Hopefully we will hear from people in the chat as far as what they took away, any questions that they have. I'll be sure to tag you in those if anyone wants to ask any follow-up questions.
Totally. If anyone is just interested in like having a conversation around it, they can DM me too, and I'm happy to meet with them and talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria. I appreciate it.
Me too.
And I want to encourage all of our listeners to tune in next week for episode 3 of Unfudge Your Marketing. Thanks so much for joining us.